Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Wistrcill.
I'm JT Wistrcill.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of From the Couch. NFL Week 13 is in the books. It was a long week again.
Yes.
Games on different nights. Seems like NFL's happening every day, almost the way the schedule's been thrown off by COVID. But luckily, we made it through another week and lots to talk about. As usual, we'll go back and forth 5 points each. And we'll capture our thoughts on the weekend that was in the National Football League. So, all right, JT starting us off. I have a feeling he's going to start us off in the land of purple.
As usual, I will start with the purple, and as has been the trend lately, just a crazy game, up and down. If my emotions were a heart warmer, heart monitor, backing up and down like that crazy. Game starts with a horrible omen as Eric Kendricks pulls his calf, hurts it, out for the game. Very first drive, Mike Glennon throws a horrible pass, bounces off our DB's arm into Laviska Shenault, the receiver for the Jags. And then even on our first offensive possession, Dalvin Cook dropped a pass on third down, uncharacteristic. So it was a really bad first half. Even when they did score a touchdown, Dan Bailey missed the extra point, a theme throughout the game. But Vikings get the ball to start the second half. When has that ever gone wrong? Only last week, and they continued with the trend this week as the very first play was a pick six. So I'm thinking, oh no, we're going to lose to the Jags. Our season is over. Kirk and the offense stay strong, and the defense performed pretty well. Best performance by the defensive line this year by far, I thought. Young corners and Cameron Danson and Jeff Gladney continue to improve as well. Vikings drive down the field, score, take the lead, couple touchdowns, do good, do their thing. Unfortunately, the Jags come back, they score. Vikings drive down, field goal position. We're going to win the game. Dan Bailey misses it. They end up winning it in overtime, but they got to get the kicker thing figured out. But either way, this Vikings team is back to 500 now. 6-6, currently in the 7th seed. A couple of big reasons for that. Number one, Kirk Cousins had an unbelievable November. Only had one pick and was playing phenomenal football. The offensive rookie of the year also truly emerged in Justin Jefferson. Already a 1,000-yard receiver and has a chance to catch Randy Moss. So the Vikings have been exciting. And because of that, it's finally time. The shoebox is back out. We are taking the Vikings out of the underground. They are reborn. The 2020 Minnesota Vikings are back. We're back, baby. Playoffs 2021.
Wow. That is a stretch. I appreciate that you're back in there, but I'd say your schedule doesn't make it real easy for you to make the playoffs. So, but I'm happy for you. You were totally correct on the Justin Jefferson thing. He deserves it right now. There's still 4 weeks left, but I think he's probably got it locked up. So so that was good to see. I'm happy for you and your Vikings.
Yes.
At least for a week, you have some hope. Nothing like hope. So
yeah, we only play Brady next week in Tampa.
So there,
we'll see how long it lasts.
We'll see what happens there. So I'm kind of feeling the opposite about my team. I'm not feeling good about my Steelers. I'm hesitant. I'm not going to turn the hat completely around, but I kind of want to go on the side here. No. You know what? We're 11-1. We're still the number one seed right now. But the bottom line is we lost a game we shouldn't have lost to against the Washington team. So many mistakes. Led the most drops of any team this year in the game for the Steelers receivers. I don't even recognize the team. You can't run the ball. We had 14 rushes for 21 yards. And, you know, anybody that's paid attention to the NFL any length of time says the Steelers are usually among the most physical teams in football. On the offensive side, that's not the case anymore. We're a little dink and passing. We're like a 7-on-7 team, basically on offense. And, the defense does fine. They could have come up with some stops and probably saved the game for us. Couldn't do it. Credit to Alex Smith, who had a great game. Bottom line is we have to get better. I pulled up a couple of stats that I was going to share with you, JT. The Steelers are 28th in rushing offense. There's 32 teams, 28th.
And you were the one that was 11-0.
And we were 11-0. Isn't that amazing? 28th there. So we'll see. The bottom line is it's kind of like the stock market. You want to catch something that's trending up, and the Steelers are trending down right now. And we'll find out. They go to the Bills Sunday Night Football on NBC. It's almost like a playoff preview for these two teams. And we'll see if they show up or not. If Josh Allen plays the way he played this past weekend, Steelers are going to get drilled. Now, we'll see what happens. And I expect the veteran Steelers to pull together and to make some plays but bottom line is they still play the Bills, they play the Colts and the Browns. Yeah, they get the Bengals, but they play 3 playoff teams left in their last 4. They need to get some momentum, or they're going to be the first 11-0 team to go on the road in the playoffs and then lose, because the Browns will end up winning the division. So I don't know. I'm not feeling it right now, and they need to turn it around.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. Unfortunately for your Steelers, just the offensive line is a massive issue in terms of no one on that group is really in their prime. You get DeCastro and Villanueva are aging. Pouncey's been out, and you got some young guys in there starting. So I think that's one of the reasons you struggle to run the ball. And Connor and those guys are very average back, so it does suck. It's something you guys are going to have to figure out. And also, I love the Alex Smith play, by the way. I'm running with the ball off the field to get the extra field goal. Not funny to a Steeler fan, but very funny to regular football fans. But you guys will be fine. You'll be fine. Still
We'll
11-0.
We'll see.
11-1.
11-1. So we'll see. All right, second point. What do you got, JT?
How about the other team in your division who's currently in second, not the Baltimore Ravens, who throttled the Cowboys, the Cleveland Browns, who are up 38-7 on the Titans at half. Titans end up coming back late, but the Browns, the first half explosion was already too much for them to overcome. Baker Mayfield, sensational. One of the best games he's played this season. He had that other game versus the Bengals where he was awesome. 334 yards, 4 touchdowns. The Titans sold out to stop the run, and Baker made him pay for it. Getting all his guys involved, Landry, Peoples-Jones, and Higgins. He was doing a great job distributing the ball. Extremely accurate. It's something we just have. Baker has not been extremely accurate this year. And he did a really good job with that offensive line. Great job providing time. They really invested in that offensive line, and it's really paying off. Also, they're still, even though he only had 80 yards, they're a different team when Nick Chubb is healthy. So having him healthy is huge. Sheldon Richardson along the defensive line, I thought was the MVP for the 2 plays he made early. 4th down, he breaks through, gets the big stop on Derrick Henry. The Titans' next possession, he forces a fumble on Derrick Henry, gives the Browns good field goal position. 17-0 leads. They couldn't look back. So this Browns team, they're dominant on offense. They got playmakers on defense. Didn't mention Myles Garrett or Denzel Ward. Defensive line's pretty deep in general as well. So loving the way this Browns team is playing. They're 9-3 right now. Kevin Stefanski should be in the Coach of the Year conversation. I don't think, it's been all Brian Flores, but, when's the last time the Browns were good? And they are under Kevin Stefanski, first-year NFL head coach. So loving what I'm seeing out of the Browns right now. And a lot of credit for a dominating performance against a good Titans team.
Yeah, very impressed with the Browns. I hate to say that, amazingly. And they have a chance. Now, they do host the Ravens Monday Night Football this coming week. And we saw what the Ravens did tonight to the Cowboys. So that'll be a hell of a game. And then they go to the Giants, who I'm kind of high on right now. So so we'll see what happens there. But nonetheless, credit to the Browns. They secured their first winning season in 13 years, I think it was. So
incredible. Credit
to them. So I want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs for a little bit. And here's my thought. Hear me out on this one. So they have some issues, right? So their defense is average. They're 26th in rushing defense. That's bad. And typically you're just going to say in the playoffs, you got to be able to run the ball and stop the run. They run the ball all right. They can't stop the run. And so you start to think about some of the teams they could play in the playoffs, and that could really present a problem. They play at the Dolphins and at the Saints their next 2 games. 2 tough games, okay? But here's where I flip this. I'm not sure it matters. I think they can just outscore people. Yeah. And so, it's like they're going to put up 35 or more points every game. Somewhere in there, they're going to click and roll off 2 touchdowns in 3 minutes. And so I just think they have issues, and they have the ability to say they just don't matter. We're just going to keep getting better at what we do, and we're going to find ways to win. They like I said, I don't think I've ever seen a team that can turn it on as quick as they do. And so they got playmakers. Obviously, Mahomes is great. Tyreek Hill is the new fastest man in football. I never thought I'd see anybody that ran away from people like Deion Sanders could, and Tyreek Hill does that. Yeah. He runs away from people. So, in some ways, it's almost like the only thing that's going to stop him is injuries, and we don't know when that could happen, but we'll see. So I look at it and say they got a couple tough games left. I'm not sure it matters. So what are your thoughts on the Chiefs?
I agree. And I think with the Chiefs, no, they're not built to stop the run, but they are built to, when you get a big lead like that, teams have to become pass happy. They're built to rush the passer, all that money in Chris Jones and Frank Clark, 2 of the top players at their position, and Tyrann Mathieu, who had a great game on Sunday Night Football, a ball hawk who can create some turnovers. So they got some guys up there. It's not a great defense. They're not going to win any low-scoring games, but almost all the money's on the offensive side anyway, so they're not counting on their defense to do much.
Yep. Yeah, very impressive. So, all right, number 3, JT. What do you got?
The Rams rebounding and getting a huge win versus the Cardinals, 38-28. Huge division matchup here. The Cardinals have been struggling a little bit with that bad loss to the Patriots the week before, and the Rams lost a surprising one to the 49ers. So 49ers always have this team's number, even with Nick Mullins starting at quarterback. So how would the Rams rebound, especially Jared Goff, who got called out by Sean McVay? Goff and this team specifically, very well. 351 passing yards, only 1 touchdown. They did stall a little bit in the red zone, but they moved the ball all day on this Cardinals defense. The play action pass was extremely deadly. When you get Goff rolling out like that, that's when he's accurate. He's got some time to throw, pick you apart, got all the receivers involved. They've missed Andrew Whitworth has not been there, and they haven't really missed a beat on offense, which has been impressive. So credit to their backup left tackle for stepping up. So the Rams did a good on offense, but this defense, the job that Brandon Staley, I want to get his name right, their young defensive coordinator has done filling in for Wade Phillips, has been very incredible. He's done a great job there. Obviously, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, but the development, there's so many young guys on this defense that step up and make big plays. It's really impressive to watch, and they gave the Cardinals a lot of problems. Kyler Murray did not have a lot of time. Jalen Ramsey did a phenomenal job on DeAndre Hopkins. So the Cardinals really struggled in this game. And they're going to be in trouble for the season. I think they're a team that's going to spiral out of the playoff race because Cliff Kingsbury is kind of stuck right now. His offense, they haven't really been able to evolve. And I'm just really impressed by this Rams team because of their great coaching, big-time players, and the young guys who have really stepped up with them. So really like what I'm seeing out the Rams right now.
Yep, Rams got, they host the Patriots and the Jets. Mm-hmm. So I think they win their next 2 games. And then they go to Seattle, and then they host the Cardinals to end it. So, I think they're going to win the next 2. They're going to be 10-4, and then we'll see what happens those last 2 games. So, be interesting to see what happens to the Rams as we play it out. So, I'm going to talk about the Giants. So, the NFC least kind of flexed its muscle a little bit this weekend, right? I mean, the Washington football team took down the Steelers. The Giants went all the way out to the Seahawks and really kind of hammered the Seahawks a little bit. So, wasn't really much of a game. So, they're 5-7. They've won 4 straight. Okay, they've got a decent schedule coming up, but they've also got some issues, right? So they host the Cardinals this weekend. I think that's a win. Mm-hmm. They host the Browns. That could be a win. They go to the Ravens, and then they host the Cowboys. So I think it's in front of them to win the division. To me, they're the ones I would pick right there. Unfortunately, they're 31st, second to the bottom in offensive yards per game. They're not doing much. They're 11th in rushing. So they basically make their money on, we're going to run the ball, and then they're 4th in rushing even. So we're going to run the ball, we're going to stop the run, right? We talk about that a lot. That's a successful football team. When it comes to the playoffs, you're going to have to throw the ball. I think that they don't last real long, but I think they're going to win the division. It's kind of cool to see that at least one team actually kind of looks like a playoff team in the NFC least. So there's my thoughts on the Giants.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's interesting with them too is you talked about, no, they don't do a great job of yards per game in terms of passing, but they got guys out there who could have made big-time catches this year and will be able to do so in the playoffs. Now, my only thing for the Giants is you got to really be careful. You just saw Colt McCoy go to Seattle and get a win there. That shows that this is a really good team. It's not super dependent on their quarterback. So don't be like, oh, we made the playoffs with Daniel Jones this year. We have our franchise quarterback. Got to still keep that evaluation open, but so impressed by the Giants, especially on defense. And I'm actually going to get to their head coach in a little bit.
Okay, good. All right, number 4, JT, what do you got?
But I got to start with who I believe is the best team in the NFC. You proclaimed it the Packers last week up in Green Bay, and I'm going with the boys down south in the New Orleans Saints. I've been really impressed by this team after their rocky start. They are 10-3 and really aren't getting much hype, it feels like right now, because they had, at a time, a bad loss to the Raiders. Well, the Raiders were actually pretty good, we found out eventually, so I think that was one of the reasons. But Taysom Hill played his best game against the Falcons he's played this year. I know he was a yard off his career high in passing yards, which he had a few weeks ago against the Falcons, but I thought he made some tougher throws and did a better job. Part of that is Michael Thomas being back, had over 100 yards receiving. He is so big for this offense. But Hill going for 232 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. His first and second passing touchdown of his career as well. So very impressive there for Taysom. This offense is scary because running the ball, Taysom is such a threat. Got some nice backs in Kamara. One of the best offensive lines up front. And they don't threaten you deep, but the intermediate passing game with a beast like Thomas who can get those 50-50 balls. And Sean McVay does a great job designing plays. And defensively, maybe the deepest defensive line in the NFL, an elite duo at linebacker and cornerback, and a really nice duo, not as elite, but a nice duo at safety. So it's one of the deepest rosters in the league. They're extremely well coached. Breeze will be rested when he returns, and if they actually need him to, I do think Taysom Hill can win them a playoff game. He cannot win them a Super Bowl, but he might, even if Breeze needs an extra week or two, win them a playoff game. So I love the Saints right now.
If I'm looking at it correctly, they've won 9 straight games. They go to the Eagles, and then there could be a Super Bowl preview. Chiefs at Saints. So, how about that for a game here in a couple weeks on December 20th? Yeah. So
there's a chance Breeze could return next week too. He comes off. This is the first week he has a chance to come off that injury reserve list.
I think to me, I'm still on the Packers purely because of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And I think their defense is good enough. I just think the quarterback situation in New Orleans is a little shaky when it comes. If that's the NFC Championship game, I'm all in on the Packers. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to talk about the dumpster fire that is the Chargers.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about the Jets.
No, they're done. They're done. Let's talk about the Chargers. Have they given up? All right, they're 3-9. Now, they didn't just lose to the Patriots. I don't know if you saw the score. They lost 45-0 to the Patriots, okay?
So Cam Newton must have sliced him up and diced him up, right?
Yeah, that didn't happen.
I know.
Not really. No, it was awful. So, they've lost 5 of 6. Their only win in that stretch is against the Jets.
Nice.
So we know that's bad. Is a coaching change going to happen with the Chargers? It's hard to believe not, right? I mean, they've got enough problems as they are. So they do play the Falcons next. The Chargers have lost so many games in strange ways, right? We've talked about this before. They've thrown games away. They've turned it over. They've had field goals blocked. They had a special teams return. I mean, they've had all kinds of ways to lose a game. And I think it just accumulates over time. And teams now get to the point in the fourth quarter like, we're probably going to lose. And it's too bad because, again, I think Justin's a very good quarterback. I think that he could be really good in the future. He's going to need it. They're going to need a new staff there to get things straightened out and get them pushed forward. Like I said, 3-9 in a division with the Chiefs, with the Raiders getting better. Who knows about the Broncos long term? Not going to be easy for the Chargers, but nonetheless, you just got to get better. And they are totally regressing. It's almost like they can't wait for the season to get over.
Yeah, I mean, I threw it out last week. Top 12 defense, top 5 offense. Now they're 3-9. It's awful. I mean, I think Cam Newton only threw for 69 yards in that game. So I really like Anthony Lynn, the person, and thought he would be the guy, but I think it's time to move on because this roster is loaded with talent. Yep. Got
to do better. They have the Falcons, and then the last 3 games are against their division foes. So time will tell on them. So, all right, number 5, JT, last one. What are we talking about?
The Chargers are going to be entering the fray with some of these teams I'm going to be talking about, and just about looking for a head coach and how important it is. Everyone wants the young, hotshot OC. They're this cool guy.
The Sean
McVay, because he's 1 out of, 6? 1 out of 100, it feels like. I mean, so many teams have missed on him. But culture is still the most important thing in the NFL. Mike Tomlin made a joke yesterday to Chase Young, how he loves Chase Young, the player. Knew he'd never be in position to draft a guy like that. Why? Because even with the awful Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges at quarterback, the Steelers' defense and the culture in place is such a winning culture, they were still able to win 8 games and get to 500. So I just think that is the most important thing, culture. It's what teams have to prioritize. We've seen some teams go in the young OC route, and it's worked sometimes, but not enough. But if you look at guys like Joe Judge, the job he's doing his first year, Ron Rivera, both those guys, they didn't even need a full season to change the team's culture from losing to now they can go in and win those big-time games you talked about. So great job there. Brian Flores in 2 years. It's an extremely quick rebuild. They're already done. Mike Zimmer took a 1-5 football team and got them to 500. Sean McDermott is about to get his team to win the division for the first time since 1995. All these guys are defensive-minded head coaches with a winning mentality, win at all costs, and this is the right way to go, I think. If you got an opportunity to bring in a head coach who brings in a strong culture, that's what you have to do. look, maybe you find the next McVay, but more times than not, you're going to get the next Adam Gates. So you got to prioritize a strong culture and a strong leader of men when looking for head coach.
So how do you determine that, whether it's an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, since they've never ran a team, that they're going to bring culture? How do you hire for that?
Well, Ron Rivera, I think he brought in a great culture where he was from. You look at coaches who come from winning organizations and ones that really bring in a mindset, like Joe Judge. He comes from the Patriots. He brings it. Brian Flores, those guys like that. Now, do you have to be careful sometimes? Yeah, because Matt Patricia just tried to make a carbon copy of New England. We've seen Judge and Flores both adapt better to that situation. Guys like Zach Taylor, they just try to come over and copy Joe Burrow, could copy Jared Goff, that Ram system, Sean McVay. It doesn't really work. I'd rather bring in a guy who really prioritizes winning, like a winning mindset. I just don't think young offensive coordinator guys, I just don't think they bring that. I think they're more focused on the cool routes they design rather than that.
But there you're separating offense and defense. Just because they coach defense doesn't mean they have a mindset and a culture and that type of thing. It's still a crapshoot when you hire a coach. You don't know, right? Nobody knew Sean McVay was going to be good, but he was, right? And so you can try to do that, but if they've never been, Ron Rivera's been a head coach. You knew what you were getting from a culture standpoint. Anytime you hire someone who's not a head coach, you don't really know what they're going to be like. You don't know what culture they're going to bring. And so that's the real challenge in the hiring thing. I don't think it has anything to do with offense or defense. It's about what culture did they grow up in? How can they bring that to the team you're going to have? And then at the end of the day, you're still rolling the dice. And it's really difficult. What you're talking about is absolutely true. The franchises that are successful have a culture within them. That is true, right? And typically a coach usually buys into that and is a leader of that. But I don't think it's as easy as saying the offensive guys are just flashy. But so you need to look at defense to build culture.
Yeah.
I think that's a slippery slope there.
And I think the mistake I made, what you're highlighting right now, is hire proven commodities more, even if they are defensive, versus a lot of teams are taking more of a risk on a young guy with a lesser resume because he couldn't be McVay. Don't pass up the qualified candidates for the slim chance that this guy revolutionizes football.
Yeah, yep, good point. So, all right, my last point, I want to talk about playoff seeding, okay? Typically, when you think about a normal year, the way it's been, with 1 and 2 seeds getting a bye, right? Week 17 has been a week to rest. We're resting people all over the place. I don't know if that happens this year as much. 2 reasons. Number one, the best teams are going to be battling for that number 1 seed. So all of a sudden you might need to win that last game of the year to secure that number 1 seed. Let's talk about the Steelers and Chiefs, right? Yeah. There could be a chance that they both have to win that last game to figure out who the number 1 seed is. Could happen with the Packers and the Saints in the NFC. You just don't know. So typically, it was those 2 teams at the top were somewhat secure in Week 16. So it was kind of, now this year, I think it's a toss-up. I think we could get into Week 17, and not only are we talking about who's making the playoffs in the bottom, but the top as well. So all of a sudden, I think it makes Week 17 a lot more compelling because there's only 1 playoff bye. And that bye is going to be really valuable because this year, because there's no crowds, so the home field advantage in a lot of ways I think is out the window. It's just going to be, do you have to play or not? So I don't want to be the 2 seed because that number 7 seed is pretty dang good, and probably a team that is above 500 because they won't be the NFC least champions. So I'm really anxious to see this year with the addition of that 7th, how that changes playoff seeding.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It is because of how important a bye is, and only 1 team gets it. A normal year, Week 17, Steelers and Chiefs, they're both probably resting. Maybe there's a fight for the 1 seed there, but you know what? Hey, they're both going to get a bye, so even the thought of that. But now there is only 1 like that. It's going to be such a different and weird postseason. It'll be exciting to see and interesting to see how, if at all, home field factors in and how teams compete for that buys. If it leads to a better Week 17 product, I think everyone would be happy.
Yep. So that'd be great. Well, welcome back to your Vikings, to the living. I was glad we could
resurrected. Never give up on something before it's over. It's a great life message.
That's great. So, well, we hope you enjoyed our tour through Week 13, and we look forward to seeing you next time in Week 14 on another edition of From the Couch. We'll see you next time.